What's up, good people, and welcome to another episode of Keep It Thorough. We give you the real behind business, health, money, and self-development, and introduce engaging concepts to help you perform better in all areas of life. I'm your host, Cedric Lavelle, joined by my other part of my dynamic duo, of our dynamic duo, rather.
Your boy E Double back
Yes,
at
sir.
you, coming with another action-packed episode. Super excited to get this one kicked off. So where we at, Sid? What episode we on?
We are on episode 77. In today's episode, 77 of them things, man. We've been knocking them out. Episode 77. And today's episode is going to be opening the vault to successful business leadership. I think this is going to be very informative, high quality conversation. So without further ado.
Yeah, really just hitting on the traits of a successful leader or the anatomy of a successful business leader.
You had to put that word in there, didn't you? You just had to put that word in there.
But yeah, no, but I think this is a real good episode though. But yeah, go ahead, kick us off, Sid.
Absolutely, man. So opening the vault, right? And when it comes to leadership, one thing comes to mind. One of the most important things of leadership. And we've talked about this before in the past on some of our episodes, but emotional intelligence. I think emotional intelligence is a very important, and it's imperative for leaders to understand and embrace emotional intelligence. I believe that in order to build an effective team, in order to create a culture of empathy, of effective communication, a culture of trust, you have to have emotional intelligence. And it not only has to be given or created within your organization, but most importantly, you have to understand emotional intelligence for yourself. And that's via self-awareness, self-regulation, being able to motivate your team, which are all elements to emotional intelligence. And so if you're wanting to be an effective business leader, one of the most important things that you want to do is study emotional intelligence, because I believe that's one of the keys to getting the most out of yourself, but also getting the most out of everyone that's within your organization. That's how you build an effective team. That's how you're able to navigate into some of these business uncertainties. That's how you're able to be at the forefront of all industry changes. That's how you're able to empower others and get your people to rally around you whenever it comes to a goal or whenever it comes to an objective. And so when you're starting to display that emotional intelligence and you embrace emotional intelligence, that's one of the, I'll say, keys that unlocks the door to building a business, building an organization, building a community, building a team, and really creating something that's sustainable for now and for years to come.
You know, I agree with you, man. And I think really just to add on to that, what is emotional intelligence, right? Like we did a whole episode on emotional intelligence, but just to finalize that point, I think emotional intelligence, when it comes to being a successful business leader, it's basically not leading or letting, your emotions dictate your decision making and outcomes, right? Like not letting you being upset or showing favoritism because you like somebody or doing the opposite because you dislike somebody, right? Like doing what's best for the business and kind of putting your emotions to the side, right? So I think that's a very, very important ingredient, we'll say, to being a successful business leader, right? Next on the list, which we've been talking about this a lot lately, is resilience, right? So resilience is a crucial ingredient as well to the recipe of being a successful leader, right? And so what does that look like? Every successful leader has a unique identifier. So it's something unique about them, right? Now, some of us may share, some of those leaders may share that identifier, but the way they go about it may be a little bit different. But the distinct strategic wiring and a personal code to accomplish business objectives. And when I say like a personal code, what is that code? The code isn't in a Word document, it's not in a slide deck, it's not in a book, but it's actually a combination of that emotional intelligence, resilience, and impactful decision making. It's like a combination of those things. That's what that code is, right? And putting them together in the right way allows you to be a successful leader. And when we talk about resilience, many leaders can overlook the impact of those three things and the impact that they have on business. And as you're going through your day-to-day operations of running the business and being in that environment, getting past the walls of business challenges requires the correct combination and balance of those traits. And this leads to driving results and shapes the environment that significantly impacts your team, right? So when we talk about resilience, it's, your ability to bounce back and come back stronger. And, pairing that with your emotional intelligence, right? So like when you're dealing with those challenging situations, you're not acting, emotionally. You're actually taking the time to think about the potential solutions and scenarios and making the best decision based on the outcome that you're looking for. So resilience is very, very, very important and really the second of the crucial ingredients to being a successful business leader.
And I think when you talk about resilience is highly important because that's what enables you to really like push through every moment that can be detrimental, every moment that can steer you into a different direction, every moment that can really impact you from being emotionally intelligent. Because if you're not resilient and willing to push yourself past certain situations, you're not going to be aware of emotional intelligence. And then, like you said, with decision making is crucial to any business leader. And with being resilient, you're able to.
And it's really the last ingredient of.
Yeah, and with being, and they all connect together because like I say, with being resilient, that's going to allow you to make those crucial decisions in those very highly pressured and intense moments, right? Because with decision making determines your now and your later. And whatever decision that you make in that moment, it can either push you forward or it can pull you back. It can allow you to see the goals that you're wanting to achieve and obtain, or it's going to put you in a position where you're struggling or where you're challenged or where you're not able to effectively navigate and pivot whenever it's needed. And we've had an episode where we talked about pivoting and being able to adapt in those moments where there's uncertainty, where you're unsure of what the outcome is going to potentially be, but just by being resilient, by being emotionally intelligent, and by being effective in your decision making, you're confident that you're able to navigate and get your team through. You believe that you're the leader of the team, the pack, the organization, whatever words you want to use. You're the leader and you're highly capable and functional to be able to get the results and get the job done. Because that's why people follow you. As a leader, people are following you because they believe in you. They believe that you're the one that's going to get them over those hurdles. You're the one that's going to be able to create the strategic plans that are needed to achieve the results that you're wanting to obtain. And so when you effectively have those things going for you, emotional intelligence, resilience, decision making, then you can see a difference in how outcomes can potentially be materialized. You know what I mean?
Definitely. So we just touched on three things, right? So emotional intelligence, resilience, and decision making. And those three things combined, right, is the leadership triad, is what we'll call it, right? And emotional intelligence, resilience, and decision making form the leadership triad that is instrumental in cracking the code to successful leadership. So I mentioned earlier that that code isn't in a Word document or a slide deck or a book or anything like that, but it's like a combination of these different ingredients, right? And everybody, like said, might be stronger with emotional intelligence. I may be stronger at resilience. Somebody else may be a stronger decision maker. But we can offset our weaknesses, by leveraging our strengths and then getting better in the areas that we're weak. So when we like break these down or, crack the code essentially, right? So emotional intelligence allows a leader to be steered by empathy, understanding, and awareness. Emotional intelligent leaders exude behaviors that cultivate meaningful relationships and constructive responses, which is very important during troubled times and peaceful paths. Like as I mentioned earlier, don't think that emotional intelligence only pertains to you when you're upset or when you're angry or frustrated or like a negative emotion. Because having good emotional intelligence when you're what is the word I'm looking for? When you're like overstimulated, right? Or happy or super excited, you definitely need emotional intelligence in those situations as well. But having an emotional intelligent leader is one who's going to be able to empathize with their staff or their team or their business partners, and they have understanding and awareness. They're aware of what's going on, and they don't just got tunnel vision. Like they see the bigger picture, the holistic view of the organization and kind of what's going on. So very, very important. So resilience is a much needed trait and allows a leader to withstand uncertainties, shoulder different business adversities, creates crisis mitigation, which is strategies, which is very important, and to bounce back after setbacks. So resilience is extremely important, which touched on some very important points as it pertains to resilience and how, each of these kind of complement each other, right? Because if you have good emotional intelligence, like said mentioned, then you have a more optimistic outlook. So as you go through certain things, it makes it easier for you to bounce back. And then as you go through those time and time again, you build up your resilience, which helps with your decision making because you've already been exposed to, similar situations. So you're a little bit more comfortable with navigating them, right? And the last on the list is decision making. So swift, strategic, and impactful decision making is the foundation to a strong leader. A successful leader possesses the skill set to make well-informed decisions when moments are intense or high pressured. So decision making, I think we talked about this maybe last week before last, where I said I looked at a chart that had an X and Y axis, and it talked about how somebody who got started and seen success was way up here. Somebody who got started and failed still moved up the notch, and somebody who didn't even get started was below, right? So when we talk about decision making, swift, strategic, and impactful decision making. Get started. You have to make a decision. You can't be indecisive. Like indecisive people are not good leaders. You have to be decisive. You have to be confident. You have to not be scared to make a mistake. Because if you make the mistake, you can recover from it. So so decision making, swift, strategic, and impactful decision making is the foundation to a strong leader, right? So again, the leadership triad. Go ahead, say it.
No. I was just gonna say there's just so many examples that you can look at when it comes to the leadership triad. When it comes to emotional intelligence, when it comes to resilience, when it comes to decision making. I've said this to you before and we've had conversations about Microsoft and just the leadership team and the CEO at Microsoft and the many changes that you've experienced by just being there. I know there's been conversations that you and I both have had where you've talked about the culture, where you've talked about different things that have been implemented. And when you look at some of these highly successful companies like your Microsoft, like your Apples, let's say like your Apples. I don't know, that sounded funny to me. Like your Apple.
Or your Facebooks, you know.
Right,
your
yeah,
Googles,
Facebooks,
you know, a bunch
Disney,
of tech companies,
Googles,
but,
all of these prominent companies that are dominating. Now, obviously, yeah, in all businesses, there's the politics, there's the corporate jargon, and all these other different things that you have to deal with that come with that corporate environment in the corporate setting. But you also have to look at the strategic nature and the landscape of business as well too. Like you have to pay very close attention to how these companies move, what they're doing, what strategies are they implementing, how are they responding to economic downturns, what are they doing specifically when the economy is moving at a different pace, how are they positioning their brand. And you can look at a company like Apple, and I think Apple recently was it 3 trillion? It's some
yeah, they broke the $3 trillion market cap.
an
I think they were the first
astronomical
company to do so.
astronomical amount, right? And you and I had these
Especially considering that they just hit the 1 trillion market cap not too long ago. So they've like tripled
right.
their value in a short amount
So
of time.
that's insane.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's very rare. That they're functioning in rare air. And one of the things that I've always seen with Apple is just their brand capability. Their ability to just really attract an audience that's connected to them.
So
right?
y'all said said is an Apple fanboy. So we gonna acknowledge that real quick. But hey, Apple is a solid company, and I agree with you, man. I think Tim Cook is a very effective leader, and he's done an amazing job. You know, after taking over and Tim Cook or Steve Jobs passing and all that.
Yeah.
So Apple's a great example.
And so it just makes it interesting to see how these businesses function at such a high level
For so
and are
long.
consistent. You know, and that's one of the big that's like when you're looking at a LeBron James. And I'm gonna bring it up. But you look at 20 seasons that you've played in the league.
So me and Said is on the opposite ends of a lot of these conversations.
Oh, come on, man. Let me get my point out.
No, my bad. Go ahead, bro.
But no, you look at 20 plus seasons, consistency, and what goes into that. What goes into an individual being able to function at a high level for an extended period of time. And I think that's what separates the good from the great, the average from above average. And you said it last week, consistency.
Yeah, consistency. Yeah, it's the difference. That's the problem.
How long can you be consistent? How long can you have good emotional intelligence? How long can you have resilience? How long can you have good decision making that's going to allow you to become the most effective business leader that you can be and maximize your potential and decode everything that entails with leadership in order to contribute to your team to see outstanding results? How long can you do that? Yeah. How long are you able to last in those moments and continue to develop to being a high functional leader? And I think it's a continual thing. It's never ending, but it's always the learning areas that you can continue to tap into.
No, I think you said the perfect word, continual. It's a continual thing because honestly, I don't think you ever really master it.
Yeah.
I think you pick up certain behaviors and habits that you that allows you to be able to continuously evolve and adjust as things change, as the business landscape change, as technology changes, various different things. You pick up certain habits and behaviors that allows you to continuously be good at, emotional intelligence, resilience, and decision making. But over time, you may lose that knack, right? You may lose that motivation or whatever. And at that point, some people hang it up and go do something else, right? Or you continue to, make adjustments and pivot and, you figure it out. So cool. So moving on, right? I think we're really kind of we're kind of closing out and getting towards the end of the episode. So the keys to decoding a successful leadership, or decoding successful leadership, not a successful leadership. I was thinking a successful leader. But the three things that we just mentioned: emotional intelligence, resilience, and decision making. And we always like to give, tangible things. So like, what is something that you can do right now? Like, literally right now, or, once you get done listening to this podcast, and something that you can implement to be a better leader. So to broaden your emotional intelligence, which emotional intelligence is the first one, you can do this by embracing empathy, communication, and trust where your team feels valued and motivated. So, embracing empathy. What does that mean? What it means is not jumping to conclusions, not making assumptions, not always thinking that everybody has an excuse, or that they don't actually have things going on in their lives that can affect them, their thoughts, their emotions, their performance, all of those things. And really taking an opportunity to empathize and really see what they have going on, and talk to them and create and cultivate that healthy, open door type of relationship with your business partners or your staff or whatever the case may be. And then, communicating and by communicating and showing empathy and creating a better culture, that'll help a lot with your emotional intelligence. So that's something that you can do right now. Start to embrace empathy and communication. For resilience, right, you can build resilience by developing strategies to counter adversities and cultivating an optimistic outlook and incorporating mental fortitude exercises. So when you think about resilience, we talked about like the rubber band concept, and how, resilience is like a rubber band, and some people were pulled too hard and they break, and other people, they deal with difficult situations, but it didn't break them, but it strengthens them up over time. Resilience is that same way. Well, not the same way, but this example here, as it pertains to resilience, is exactly the same. And the way you can kind of build that up is developing the strategies to deal with adversities. So if you're running a particular business and I can't think of any examples right now, but you can think of a situation that may go wrong, trying to like plan or put together a strategy or risk mitigation of some sort will help you if something goes wrong, because you kind of already thought about it, you were kind of already planning for it, and it'll help you a lot. And then cultivating an optimistic outlook. This is a lot easier said than done, especially if you're more of a worrier, and you consider. I don't think too many people consider themselves a pessimistic, but there are a lot of pessimistic people out there. But just trying to look at the positive in things, and trying to find the solution, and focusing in on those things instead of focusing all your attention on what can go wrong. I think you should think about what can go wrong, but that shouldn't be where all of your attention is paid, right? You should think about, okay, these are worst case scenarios, these are best case scenarios. How do I get to these best case scenarios? So that's how you can kind of build resilience. And I forgot to mention the incorporating mental fortitude exercises. So there's different exercises you can do to strengthen your mental fortitude. If you were to go Google mental fortitude exercises or look at some hashtags. I'm sure you can find some that'll just help you with controlling your mind and how you react in certain types of situations.
Right.
And then the last one is enhance your decision-making skills. You can do this by analyzing consequences, evaluating alternatives, and taking calculated risks. This will also allow you to build up your resilience in those situations where the risk did not go as planned. So when I say analyzing consequences, don't make rash decisions. Don't make impulse decisions. Like, think about what you're doing, right? So analyze the consequences. Like I just talked about this, right? Don't focus in on just the negative, but you should be aware on what the potential negatives are.
What the
right?
dangers could potentially
Right.
be.
And then if you're caught between making a couple of decisions, you can look at this decision like, okay, well, this is the worst case scenario, this is the best case scenario. You can look at this situation like, okay, well, this is the worst case scenario, this is the best case scenario. Well, which worst case scenario are you willing to live with? Right. And then that should help guide your decision making.
Right.
And then
That's like risk tolerance.
Yeah, your risk tolerance. And then evaluating alternatives, which I just kind of explained that. Those are, if you got multiple options, evaluate the alternative options to see which one you feel more comfortable with. And then take those calculated risks. Once you've analyzed the consequences, you've looked at the alternatives, and you made a decision, go ahead and take the risk. Don't sit on it. It's better to get started than to not get started. Because as we mentioned a little earlier in this episode, in the previous episodes, you're not staying in the same place by waiting. You're falling behind. And the longer you wait, the further behind you get. So make a decision, take the calculated risk. The quicker you do that, the quicker you can either be successful and move on to the next goal or journey, or the quicker you can fail, which we don't look at it as failure. We look at it as learning lessons. So the quicker you can learn lessons. So fail fast so you can, get to that end goal that you're looking to achieve or accomplish. You got anything else you wanted to add, Sid?
Nah, bro. I agree with everything that you just said, man. Just emotional intelligence, resilience, decision making. You said, do I have anything else I wanted to say? And I said, no, but I'm actually saying something. I don't know why I do that.
Nah, you good,
bro. But anyway, no, but what I was going to say was those three things don't look the same for everybody. It's going to look different for me. It's going to look different for E. It's going to look different from anybody. But the objective is decoding what really makes you as it relates to emotional intelligence, resilience, and decision making. What fits you? What fits your leadership style? Because everyone has a different leadership style as well too. But you want to consider what fits your leadership style and how can those three components that we just spoke about really fit into your leadership style to make you be the most effective. And when you figure that out, that's how you open that vault to business leadership. That's how you become that successful business leader, because now you've kind of came into like the holy grail of excellence when it comes to leadership, because you're functioning a little bit differently because of the understanding that you have of who you are, what you can contribute, and what are the components that are going to allow you to be the most effective that you can be as a leader.
1,000%. So, hey, as always, we greatly appreciate everybody who tunes in, whether it's on a podcast platform, YouTube, or, one of our social media platforms. We'll be back at y'all again next Tuesday with the new podcast episodes, and the videos drop on Thursday. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the episode. I think it was a very insightful topic. I think a lot of people that follow us are entrepreneurs or business professionals, and any sort of tips that we can give or that anybody can give to help those individuals is always a positive. So with all that said, thank you.
Make sure y'all subscribe to the YouTube.
Oh, yeah,
follow
subscribe
us on
to the
Instagram,
YouTube.
on Thread,
all that,
all the platforms.
on Thread, all that. But yeah, but if you don't do nothing else,
yeah,
keep it thorough, and we'll holler at y'all next time. Deuces.